Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new edition of Sustainable Future Food Experts. Today we have a very interesting session and you get a chance to meet some really interesting and exciting entrepreneurs on board. I have in front of me the moderator for the session, David Burns, and it's my pleasure to introduce him to you all. David is the founder of three B2B food industry support businesses. He has helped clients achieve more than $1 billion of revenue during his journey in the food space. He became an entrepreneur at the age of 12. I repeat, he became an entrepreneur at the age of 12, and he has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs set up businesses in Australia and other parts of the world. He has also worked with some large retail giants such as Coles and few more organizations. A really terrific guy. And without further ado, I would hand over the mic to David to introduce each of the panelists and start off the panel discussion.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you so much, Arihan, for that introduction. I'm really excited about tonight. I know the panelists reasonably well over their little short journeys over the last 3 or 4 years. And yeah, as we've said, one thing I really love about this sort of startup and small to medium sort of area is, you know, the success they have in a short amount of time. These three guys, it really is quite remarkable, and it'll be great to, you know, without giving their trade secrets away, get a little bit of an insight as to their journey. Everyone may or may not know that the last 2 years with COVID, there's probably been a record amount of new entrants coming into the market. Lots of people being made redundant, and you know, it's very easy actually to start a brand, but it's not easy to make that brand a success. And my personal view of, you know, startups that have some early success, they have that success because they're nimble, they're more agile, they're quicker, they're generally more innovative, and they sort of seem to be closer to the consumer and really understand what the consumers need and come up with the right brand and the right product. And I think the larger enterprises are realizing that now and are very interested in, you know, this sort of SME and startup world, because they learn a lot from that community, believe it or not. And I think if you go back 15 or 20 years, it was almost unheard of for, you know, someone to start a brand and get into a major supermarket chain within a couple of years. So congratulations to these three guys, and let's get into it. So I'll introduce the guys in a moment, but I realized this is a bit of a fluke actually, that the three guys, Tim, Ali and Steve, actually have quite a few things in common. They started around about the same time, and correct me if I'm wrong in a moment, guys, but it is around about the 3 to 4 year mark. They're all very innovative, high energy. They've all created this quite a sort of narrow, deep focus on what they're doing. And they also, in Australia anyway, the sort of one of the first movers within their little segments. And no secret that if you can be one of the first movers, then that's a serious advantage to get ahead. They're all pretty young. I spoke to Tim on Zoom a few months ago, and I joked around that at the time he looked like he was about 14. I think he might look like he looks like he's about 19 now, but he's actually late 20s anyway. And they're all, you know, great people. I'm you know, happy to know we've got the gender balance pretty good as well with Ali there. So what I'll do, I might just a very quick intro on what the guys are doing now, and then I'll hand over to you, and you can tell us a little bit about your background before you started your brand, and let's kick off with that. So we might kick off with ladies first. Ali, maybe give us a bit of a background as to, you know, what you're up to before you started Lakako, and you know, and what made you decide to kick off your brand?
Yeah, so I was actually working for another health food company in the industry as well. And I actually left to start sort of a consultancy company. I guess I was a rep on the road for about 4 or 5 different brands. And I guess I saw the opportunity to grow small brands and sort of help them, and brands that didn't have sort of a sales team. So yeah, I looked after some small brands. One of them was, remembering now, one of them was Coco Frio, one of them was Naked Paleo, Fermentanicals. So yeah, some really small brands, and I worked with the owners. And in the mix, I decided to launch my own brand. And yeah, I guess my own brand kind of took off, and I lost all the rest of the brands. So yeah, that was sort of how we started and how I got into it.
Great story. And Steve, we might go to you next with Steve Chapman from Shine Smart Drink. Steve, what were you up to? A little bit about your background and how you got into your own brand.
Yeah, thanks, David. Look, started Shine 5 years ago with a guy called Dr. Sam Prince, and pre that I was working and studying entrepreneurship under Sam. He's a very successful entrepreneur, and just super keen to learn how to bring a product to market, bring something like Shine as a brand to mass scale, not just within a niche, but try and make it as big as possible. Working super long hours, waking up at 4:30, going to still working till 10:30. It was like, how do we stay sharp? How do we stay focused? How do we stay energized throughout those long periods of time? And it was like coffee or energy drinks. And everyone I spoke to about energy drinks was like, they're not good for you. They're full of artificials. They're full of sugar. But as a category, it was, $65 billion globally. It's now 100 billion globally. It's, why can't some of that be healthy? Why can't some of that be better for you? So we ultimately wanted to create, Australia's number one better for you energy drink, so to speak. And what made it different, what made it separate was this, where we got the energy from was nootropics. And ultimately we land on that better energy nootropic drink. And now that's in about 5,000 stores. We've sold over 10 million bottles to date, and got plans to keep that going across Australia and globally.
Yeah, amazing story there, Steve. And Tim, I know you got a great Beiju story. So I know you're also got a little bit of a hospitality background as well, and currently maybe give us a bit of a background on your little history there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess I struggled through school. I didn't study at university or even really consider it for a second. I traveled for a year. I chilled out. I did plumbing, did carpentry. I worked at nightclubs, festivals, bars, and just cruised through, just pretty happy, go lucky really, and just lived for my weekends. And then I guess about 5 years ago, my dad wanted a career shift and decided to buy a small little cafe just in Essendon in Melbourne. It was about 40-seated venue. We had no idea what we were doing, but we just sort of tackled it with a lot of energy, really, and we just loved it. He's quite, personable and got a good character, and we sort of blended off each other, and we expanded every year, another 40 seats, and over sort of 3 years, we built it to about 135-seated venue, doing about 80 kilos of coffee on a Saturday, 250 meals, followed by the Sunday as well. We do cocktails, 40th, 21st, and I literally, as a 22-year-old, grew with this little coffee cupboard, and that's where I sort of started learning about social media, accounting, bit of HR and staffing. All of a sudden, I'm covering for people that are hung over the shift rather than people covering for me all of a sudden. So I lived and breathed hospitality, and I guess it wasn't until about 3 or 4 years ago I went to Korea and luckily stumbled across what I call liquid gold, and that's an all-natural fruit drink with an enzyme inside that speeds up your metabolism of alcohol, luckily. So I thought it was incredible, did lots of market research, was just obsessed with it for 12 months until I finally pulled the pin, and me, my best mate, and my partner at the time just threw the kitchen sink at it and decided to import it and try and launch our own brand and our own business called Beiju. And that was sort of like, there you go, there's 10 years in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And I guess just on this theme, obviously, with the startup communities, and I've obviously talked to a lot, one of the pieces that's really key, and you all touched on it slightly there, it'd be good to go into a little bit more detail about, the insights that you need to glean to give yourself the assurance that whatever you're launching into is going to be successful. So, Ali, I know you mentioned to me that you went to the US and you saw heaps of keto stuff. So you want to tell us a bit about your little insights there? Yeah,
absolutely. I think I've been living this keto low carb lifestyle probably for more than 10 years without even knowing it, I guess. I just, people thought it was quite strange that I didn't eat pasta or bread, or it was very odd back then. But yeah, I went on a holiday to the US, and apparently it was a thing where people don't eat carbs, so called keto. And there was just, every single supermarket, every single corner store just had some amazing, stuff that had no sugar in it. And, at the time there was, here in Australia, what was really trending was sort of date bars. So bars that had about 60% date. So I knew that there was sort of an opportunity to bring sort of keto to the market. And I really wanted to do some bars first, but being the first has its challenges. So we did coffee creamers first, and the coffee creamers are still our number one sellers today. So it took us a while to get the keto bar right. It's not necessarily about who does it first. I think it's about who does it right. And it took us a while to get it right, but when we got it right, it worked.
Yeah, amazing. And Steve, I know, mental health and mental clarity. I've read in several journals that, mental health issues is something that, humans will actually, live with for the longest, not die from. And you were one of the first movers here in Australia with a nootropic drink. So you did some research to understand that gap in the market here in Australia, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was back in 2016, probably one of the only people saying the future of functional drinks is nootropics. But then there was an article that came out in 2020 from like Mental Insights report that said that was the headline, that the future was nootropics. So that was cool to see, but it wasn't saying that when I started, unfortunately. But maybe fortunately, or else other people would have been onto it earlier or quicker. The key insights for us is, one, we wanted to test our assumptions as quick as possible. So through my business partner, we tested the assumption around, do people want to drink to help people think, feel, and do better? So we created a little shot and got that on market. Within 4 months, we'd launched our shot onto counters and just starting to get feedback and seeing if people actually liked it or not and voting with their wallets. I think there's a lot of insights and trend data that can point you in the wrong direction, and consumers potentially aren't up to speed or aren't willing to vote with their wallets from day one. So for us, it was always about, how do we test the assumptions as quick as possible for the least amount of money as possible. And then part two was looking at the trends that I don't think are changing. So, I think people are moving to healthier options. That's not going anywhere. I think in 10 years, people are still trying to avoid things like high sugar, high artificials. And ultimately, if I look at one of the biggest trends ever in food and beverage, it's, the number two reason why anyone buys a beverage is for an energy lift or pick me up. Coca-Cola started that 100 plus years ago. Energy drinks started that 30 plus years ago. That's not going anywhere. It's not a fad. It's not a trend. It's everyone who drinks a beverage at a certain point needs pick me up. Let's get in there, but also combine that with the other super trend, so to speak, of healthier, better for you. So for me, it was more about what's going to be true long-term than just in the short term as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Tim, you got a great story about your dearly beloved Korean girlfriend and your trip to Korea.
So there's kookaburras and birds in the background, so I've got to keep muting it. They're literally. But we were more of an old school approach with our market research. I've got 52 first cousins, so that could be the Irish in my surname, O'Sullivan. So we did all our market research at Christmas. I had a trestle table on entry, and it's 52 cousins plus partners plus their parents. So we usually have about 80 for Christmas. So I had a trestle table with samples, and we're all as bad as each other, to be honest. And I'm just handing out on entry. And then I followed up with the group chat the next day to do our sort of key research after sort of being so obsessed in Korea. And I guess the next phase is also being a barista. As anyone on a Friday that I knew was going to go out, have some drinks and really put the product to the test, I'd give them their latte and a bay juice at the counter on exit. So ours is a bit more of a family and customer approach. And I thought it was a good way, because the family, of course, were quite nice, and the customers at the same time gave some pretty honest feedback. So it was kind of fun. Doing the market research stuff was cool. I kind of miss doing all that little crazy hustle and high energy stuff.
No, that's great, mate. And so obviously, we've chatted about product there. I'd love to, this is potentially a little bit of a test for all of you on the brand. So obviously, I talk to a lot of people about their brand, and I say to them, if you took your product away, what does your brand stand for? Tell us about the essence of your brand. Ali, might go over to you first with, the Lukaku brand. if you don't talk about the product, what does the brand stand for?
You've asked this to me before, and to be honest, it's been it's been a challenging, it's been an interesting question. I think if you take the brand and the products away, we become like a community that have goals, and that they want to achieve better, your mind, weight loss. There's so much more to keto than just weight loss. It's about mental health, it's about physical health. So I'd say that a community of people that want to do better.
No, definitely. And I'll ask you this question now too. You spoke to me a little while ago about one of the most important things that you've nailed is having a very narrow, deep focus on the primary consumer.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really interesting when you ask somebody who their audience is and they reply to you going, a female aged 25 to 40. And I think the thing that took me actually probably a while to realize, we only really started getting some notice about 2 years after we launched. And I think it was as soon as I realized exactly who that person is. So, where do they go on the weekend? Do they go to the gym? Do they not go to the gym? What do they like to eat? Where do they like to buy food? And that was really, really defining that audience, is where we managed to, start actually developing products for who our audience were. We started, going off and doing, we launched a beautiful product very early on, actually had some nootropics in it. For us, that wasn't necessarily our audience. So it was organic and it was vegan and it was high quality and it was very expensive. And I think as soon as we realized that didn't work, as soon as we realized exactly who our market was, and our market, they want affordable stuff. They just want it to be low carb. They don't necessarily care too much about those high-end ingredients. They just want keto. So that was really interesting to sort of fail with a product to find that out.
So it's more about the consumer's lifestyle, not their age and gender.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Steve, the Shine great brand. How would you describe the Shine brand, Steve?
It starts with our mission ultimately, which is to help people think, feel, and do better, and to rid the world of bad energy. That's as simple as we can make it. Ultimately, where we want to do anything we do needs to build on that belief of how do we rid the world of bad energy, and how do we help people think and feel and do better. And that could be drinks, that could be podcasts, that could be a conversation, that could be the culture within the team that we have within the walls of Shine. So whatever we're doing, it's going to stick to that, and ultimately we want to then stick to a design language, a personality, a culture, and as they say, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if you've got the right culture, ultimately the right brand, the strategy will take care of itself.
Yeah, no, that's excellent, mate. And Tim, not hugely dissimilar to that, I wouldn't imagine, for the Bay Juice brand.
Well, we're just fun, and it actually stems from our first product design was green, gold, and brown to be nature, because we're a nature product, and we're an agricultural fruit drink. And then a marketing agency was like, "What are you doing? It's called Bay Juice. It should be sponsoring festivals. It should be sponsoring really cool ambassadors and sporting teams and all this stuff. It can't be brown and green and whatever." So we went, sweet, and we just flipped it, and we just went for the fun angle. And there is a bit of science, and there's also the do's and don'ts of what you can and can't say. But at the end of the day, we've just brought it all back down to just sort of being a bit of a fun, high energy brand, and we've done that through the things we collaborate with, the events. We've just got a new partner now, which is going to be lots of different festivals. So it's just that fun lifestyle-y brand for us. We sort of out complicating it too much.
No, that's good, mate. That's fantastic. If we move on to let's say sales and distribution. So obviously we can all have a great brand and a great info product, but if we if we can't get our minds around how to have a sales conversation, we're going to go nowhere fast. I'd love to get your stories on the very early days when you had to have your first sort of sales conversation, and like where do you start? There's a big wide world out there. I might stay on you, Tim. The sales and distribution. Where did you where did you start with that world, and how did that feel? Because a lot of people hate selling, right?
Yeah, it's funny, and I actually remember reaching out to you, Steve, early on, and you actually sort of gave me a nice little whip that actually really made a lot of sense. And the idea of sort of, like you're sort of wanting the easy route. You're sort of waiting for just a big retailer to come and go, great, you're in 1,000 stores and your business is flourishing and everything's coming together. But it was sort of more, and this is what sort of Steve actually suggested many years ago, was, you know, you've got plenty of time. There's 5 days in a week. There's no reason you can't be reaching out to 50 stores a fortnight. When you break it down over 14 days, however many that is, it's not a huge sacrifice of time and energy. And that's what we did. We went from 0 to 20 stores in 6 months, and went from 20 to 100 in 2 months. And all of a sudden we're at 100 stores, which sounds great as well as being great. And then all of a sudden on your deck, you're in 100 stores, and these are the units per week you're doing. And this is the feedback from managers. And it all started through that independent and the door to door and that real old school grind, which it was, and getting lots and lots of no's, and then going into stores and it not being there, and they haven't even put it out. You've given free stock and a nice big banner you've gone and printed and laminated, and it's not out or it's in the bin. So there is that grueling start that you have to do, and brands don't want to do it. And they ask me, you know, people reach out and go, do you just have a stores, or can I just get into Richie's and just get 60 stores like that? It would be a lot easier. But people aren't realizing you've got to go door to door. And when you do, you learn a bit about your brand. You learn about the feedback from the customers, what the managers are saying about it. Go, nah, it's not working here, but I tried it here and now it's working. So very, very valuable information for a brand owner, a product owner. So it was that 0 to 100 was the big battle. And then the next battle was going from 100 to 1,100, securing that retailer that you dream of. And all of a sudden overnight and within 2 months, you're sort of ranged in. For us, we got a deal with Woolies for 987 stores. So we've gone from delivering it in hatchback in our cars to having to have 3 warehouses across Australia to run an operation of delivering to 5 different DCs for Woolworths. So it was, you had to learn pretty quickly, but we're very lucky that not just with our network, but our confidence is to reach out to people. And that's what we did. Anyone that I know in the product world, in the consulting world, in the food and bev world, I reached out to everyone and picked everyone's brains. We tried and failed with a few third-party logistics until we found one that had some really good runs on the board. We trusted them. They said, look, we want to work with young brands and we see the potential here. And that was the first step. So then now it's a lot smoother. I'm growing my hair out because I'm going a bit bald just from the stress of all the logistics of everything. But yeah, that's the 0 to 100, the 100 to 1,000. It's that big leapfrog, but it's pretty crazy looking back on it.
And just for everyone's info, there's a very detailed, long story amongst all of that I've heard, which is excellent, and it's like a textbook of how to start and how to get your brand out there and take that brand awareness to the majors. So it's a great story, and Tim's energy levels are exhausting. Like when last time I spoke to Tim, I had to have a lie down for 2 hours afterwards. But all right, so then Ali, what about you? I mean, obviously it's not going to be a massively dissimilar story, but tell us about how you started off, knocking on doors and selling your brand and product and the conversations you were having.
Yeah, of course. I think I did it a little bit differently. I think I maybe did it knowing that I was sort of solo in this. I had another job and a small little boy. So I wasn't necessarily invested into, I didn't know that this was a future for me. It was kind of more of a hobby, but I had some contacts with distribution. So I think we got really, really lucky with a really good distribution channel. We launched the first collagen bar. I'm pretty sure one of the first in Australia. So, I went to every single distributor in Australia, and we had almost every single one of them come back to me and pretty much say, yep, cool, we'll take it. And that actually probably caused more drama than it should have, because there was exclusivity agreements going around. There was, I don't want to work with this one. I don't want to work with this one. And, it was, I went with one and I made a mistake and then I went with another one. So, Yeah, it was a bit stressful, but I think, you know, after we sorted that out, we landed on a very good distribution model, and most of those distributors we are still with today, and do very, very well for us. And I think that's what we've done everywhere. So we went into New Zealand with a distributor, we went into the UK with a distributor, and then Hong Kong as well with a distributor. So yeah, that's really how we built the brand. And then obviously we went into Woolworths this year with just harassing them. We've been to a few range reviews, and we got a few no's, and we got thrown around a bit. But I think it's just the constant belief that we do belong there is kind of what eventually got us ranging. And you know, we only just got into Woolworths, so we're really excited to see what else we can do.
It's amazing. And there's a saying, you know, if a buyer says no, they actually mean I don't know.
Yeah. Come back next year. But actually, you know, the no that we did get 1 year, it actually learned us everything about our brand. So it was about a month before COVID, actually, and the feedback that we got that we don't see the return of investment. And then COVID hit, and we lost a lot of our business, and we started to realize that we didn't know how to market to our own audience. We didn't do that much online. And yeah, you know, in sort of that COVID lockdown, just had a no from Woolworths, we really had to strip back and figure out how do we market to our own audience and get a return on investment and not lose our market, you know, when we don't have that distribution channel performing for us. So yeah, that no was the best no that we've ever got.
Yeah, I think it is worth mentioning. We'll come to you now, Steve. For anyone listening, you know, sort of wondering about the sales bit, it is insane the amount of times you can follow up on a lead sometimes to even, you know, A, get a response, and then B, get a conversation. It can be, you know, 6, 8, 10 plus times, right?
100%. I think I was talking to the CEO of Ferrari once, and I found out that it takes 16 touch points from a qualified lead to walk into a Ferrari dealership to actually sell the car. And I'm like, if that's for the number one coolest brand company in the world, and that's from a qualified lead walking on a dealership, like, holy monkey, how many times am I going to have to chase someone who needs this product that hasn't heard about it before? So it gave me some confidence that, you know, 16 plus follow-ups isn't actually a bad thing. It's just sometimes required.
Yeah, that's right. And Steve, obviously, it feels like your journey was, you know, it was nice and steady, and then all of us, you know, almost all of a sudden, you had this sort of tsunami happen with, you got some good convenience store listings, and then Coles, and it's you see your brand everywhere now. So well done. And how did you go about that?
Yeah, thanks. And you know, I think Tim did a great job to rehash my advice I gave him a few years ago, so I won't double up there. But he absolutely is spot on with, that's where I think you have to build it early on. You know, I'll tell something that we didn't do well is we tried to convince everyone of the scientific benefits of nootropics, and tried to convince everyone of these fancy ingredients and how they worked in the body and how they worked in the brain. And ultimately, consumers just don't care as much as you care, and they need to hear it in 5 seconds to understand it. And that's why we've now explained it as a 5-year-old would think, feel, do better, like, full stop. That's it. And that's where we landed on. But that was on so many iterations of, do we call it a brain tonic, a smart drink, a focus drink, a nootropic drink, you know, how do we explain this type of ingredients? But ultimately, consumers wanted to trust that we as brand owners knew what we're doing, and just tell me how this works in my life. Tell me how this makes my life better from a consumer benefit. And then from a retail perspective, I think you need to know which hat you're wearing. You need to be really, really good at simplifying your message for consumer benefit to consumers to make it sell off the shelf. But from a retail perspective and retailer, you need to talk their language and understand, how much is this delivering? What's my units per sub week? How much margin am I going to get? And is this an easy way for me to order it? And if you can try and simplify and talk in their language what they actually care about, you know, you're going to be a lot better. Stop trying to convince the store manager of an IGA about nootropics. He couldn't care less. He wants to know if it's going to sell. Where does it else sell? Where do I put it in store? And how much money am I going to make every time I sell it?
Yeah. What's in it for them, not what's in it for you.
Yeah, and that was the story, was, you know, let's get a certain number of stores. Let's make sure they work. Let's actually reinvest the brand belief site, so to speak, and really try and set them on fire to be like, okay, we know shots on counters, drinks in the fridge, you know, 4-packs in the aisle, with then a 1K radius Facebook ad with the sampling on weekends and, some point of sale wobblers in store, we know we can get 10, 15, 20, 50 units per store per week. We then have the belief. We know distributors can believe in it. They can see success. So they keep pushing that in other stores. We internally have belief. We're now more passionate about it. We're more confident. And then we can take those data points as well and present them to the majors. So, you get your trial, you get your 50, 100 stores, you make them really, really work. And then you get your next 1,000 and you just keep leveraging up and using that data and leveraging it.
No, that's excellent. And so it might stay on you with this next topic of, the whole, test and learn. Your packaging now and your bottle look and design with the tops is obviously a little bit different from where you started. Is that based on feedback or just continuous improvement, or what was the go there?
Yeah, I think we've got an internal mantra called win or learn. And I think that's how we approach anything from, it's either success, keep doing it, or what's the learning if it didn't work out too well. So ultimately with our packaging, we knew we had a strong brand. We always wanted to own yellow. And we looked at the fridge and thought, what color isn't owned? And yellow was a wide open opportunity. The word shine was obviously the verb we actually wanted people to experience the drink with. We wanted people to shine and feel like they could shine. Yellow perfectly aligned with positivity, energy, and all the benefits behind that. So yellow is where we wanted to own. We started launching full color bottles, and we had a full red one, a full blue one. We were going to go down to a green one. And we then realized, holy monkey, we're losing the shine yellow. We're losing the brand. And if people didn't range the tropical and they only had the peach and the blueberry and the watermelon, they wouldn't even have a shine yellow on the shelf. So what we found and borrowed and, success leaves clues. Let's see what the most successful brands do in the world. Like you've got your Coke red fridge, you've got your, green V-door. It's like, how do we have that shine yellow? So we ultimately went down to how do we take what we're doing, do it even better? So the nootropics, the natural energy, the natural flavors, fantastic, the low, no sugar. But how do we now do better what we can improve, which is for us, own in yellow. And as a brand, own brand first and then category second. A lot of people ultimately do the opposite, which is let's build category and then try and build a brand afterwards. And that's a lot harder to do onwards. So, yeah, we always look to improve. We're always testing and learning up to level number 17, I think, but we won't stop that win or learn mentality, but hopefully we don't make the same mistakes twice. That's the key.
Yeah, great story. I'll go to Ali on, new product development and I guess, the question of for the startup scene, at what point do you get into new product development? And I know, Ali, you're a bit of a new product development addict. Tell us about your sort of, at what point you started developing new lines. And obviously I know you love the new product development part, and how important is that to you and your consumers, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely my passion, is the new product development. We kind of hit a point where we were launching a product and it did really well and it was so exciting. So we did it again and that was really exciting. So that kind of built my passion. We didn't really do much for the first 2 years. We only had 3 coffee creamers and 2 bars. We actually launched the gummies. So, everybody was making gelatin gummies at home and I couldn't understand how to do it. So anyway, I figured out how to do it and I thought, well, I need to make this a little bit more accessible. So the gummies, we launched that and we sold out like 4 times in 6 weeks. And I was just, taken away that such a, it was then kids were having it and moms were having it and people were taking it to school. Like it was just, it was one of my fun factors. So then we did a chocolate mousse and we did a cookie dough. And then, I just, our little community on Instagram, we just speak to them a lot and ask them what they want. And it was really sort of driven by them. Coffee creamers was a very successful product, but some people said they don't want it in their coffee and it was too coconutty. So we launched just pure collagen and that did really well. We had a lot of demand for keto bars because our original bars were very low carb and not keto. So then we launched keto bars and then the snacking. We've got about 43 lines now and we've probably launched and trialed about 70.
Yeah.
and there's still, we've got about I've got about 10 ready for next year. So, and I think that's how we've grown and how we've captured more audiences, by just giving them more products, and that's kind of brought in a huge a larger community.
Become the lifeblood of your business, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of get a little bit of a win on something, and it takes us into a new tangent. So, you know, a lot of people started taking our coffee creamers for the beauty element. So now we have a whole beauty range. So, yeah.
Right. Tim, if we jump into the sort of marketing and communications and promotional side of the business, and I'll go around all three of you on this question, and I suspect the answers will be quite similar. So, Tim, how have you approached, you know, marketing your brand and your product? Obviously, you know, as a startup over the last 3 or 4 years, you know, in the most cost efficient manner.
Well, our mantra is just to be a busy brand, and I personally hate the term fake it till you make it. I don't really like that, but we have sort of approached just be a busy brand, and that's with sponsoring events, wiggling our way into sampling boxes, whatever it is. We did a collab with Deliveroo. We did a fashion event. I've handed out stock at Eskies, at festivals, whether the techno festivals or guitar or country. We've been front and center, and we've handed out our products. So in our first 2 weeks, we handed out about 6,000 or 7,000 units, and we just delivered them door to door. That was our original approach. We didn't have any money, but we had petrol. So anyone who messaged the page and asked for bay juice, we went and delivered it to them. And for anyone, well, people probably not everyone knows Victoria, but it could be a 2-hour destination difference. And we're there delivering a little 6-pack, hand delivering, saying, this is our new product, just launched, let us know how you go. We're happy to give it to you for free. Just tag us in an Instagram. And we just did sampling. The unit price is low. Our budget was low. So we just gave out lots of stock. And that was sort of the main thing, is sampling, events, busy brand. You know, the word leverage has been mentioned lots. We try to leverage off how busy we were, and everyone's messaged me going, you guys are killing it. Like, we haven't made a sale. Our website doesn't work. But we've been giving out lots of stock, and people are seeing it. So I think it's a good start. And then that led us into a lot of PR. And I was getting quotes for 3,500 a month retainers, 6K campaigns for 10 weeks. Just falling off my chair, getting all these invoices and proposals. So we just decided to do it ourselves through LinkedIn. So I'd go on Daily Mail, and here's sort of my main secret. I'd go on Daily Mail, I'd copy and paste the journalist that wrote anything related to alcohol, Korea, hangovers, juice. I'd put it into LinkedIn, and I'd message them saying, hey, I've read all your articles. I might have just read their last one. Loved them all. You're a great writer. You're incredible. Here's my story. I think it's great. I've got no experience. We've launched a product. Interesting story. Here's a bit of the science behind it. And more often they bit that, you know, you forget that these media companies, they want the content. Otherwise, they've got to go look for it all the time. So I added people on Broadsheet, Daily Mail, Urban Lists, News.com, Inside FMCG, anything industry related. And I just messaged every single one of them LinkedIn, a little start, middle, and end, and a little sexy photo of bay juice, and maybe one of us in front of our first container, and they love it. They loved it. So we got lots of articles, and all of a sudden 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people are on your website after reading an article, and you're doing $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 worth of sales that night on a Daily Mail article. So that sort of built our brand and blew us up, and that was the most cost-effective way we did it, just grinding into these articles and then posting the articles, and then again leveraging off that article to the next big media, saying, but we didn't even give them half the good stuff, so we'll give that to you this time. Let's do another article together. So that's sort of how we sort of winged it a bit with the sampling into trying to build the brand through these different media outlets, and it really did sort of work pretty well.
Let's hope there's no PR companies listening in tonight. That's a great story. And Steve, what was your approach, Steve?
Love that hustle, Tim. And I think, yeah, very similar with different ideas, just in different execution. So for us to take a different tact, look, I think for any product, the number one form of marketing is packaging. And I think you got to get that right. It needs to win on shelf. You've got 4 seconds to convince a consumer to pick it up. And ultimately, if we've in 10,000 stores, you've got 10,000 little billboards on all these shelves around the country. So ultimately, I think that needs to work extremely hard and get professionals looking at it to get experts who have designed packaging before to really make sure that's spot on, because then you're working on two fronts. You get the distribution point, you get the sale, and the sale's paying for the billboard to keep the next one there. So that's always been our number one, is get the packaging right. And there's, as I said, there's 17 iterations on our packaging to make sure that's correct. Part two is, ultimately the objective for us was to become a wholesale business. So how do we ultimately win in the stores that we're trying to win in? So as I mentioned before, like the 1K super targeted, radius for like Manly or Bondi would go, okay, what are the 5 coolest places in Bondi? Let's get in there. Let's sample in those stores. Let's do a 1K Facebook ad around that. Let's get influencers who live in that area to come and take photos and leverage that. So ultimately this little hub, this little Shine, corner, so to speak, within a suburb became unbelievable data. And then anyone in that area thought, holy shit, Shine spending millions of dollars on marketing. I'm seeing it everywhere. It's following me around the internet. I can't escape the thing. I'm seeing all the influencers pop up on Instagram. But realistically, to Tim's point, you giving product away for free for influencers back in the day when you could do that. You've got 5 stores and you're targeting in 1K, but because you can spend $10 or $20 a day on that 1K radius, they're going to see the ad 5 or 6 times. So it's really kind of leveraging the small budget you have to make the biggest impact in the lives that people need to know about. And then lastly, similar to what Tim said, I think the number one, if you've got a good product, form of marketing is sampling, get as many of your product in people's hands, because you can spend a bunch of money on a billboard and hope that they go into like a 7-Eleven and hope once they're in 7-Eleven, they buy your product out of the hundreds on shelf. Very, very low conversion from billboard to 7-Eleven to point of sale purchase. So we always thought, we've got a much higher repeat purchase rate than normal. So we give someone a product in a branded way, that's the number one chance they're going to try it, like it, and then obviously repeat for more. So it was working our way back from the consumer to different touch points as we scale and try and be a bit more broad.
Yeah, amazing approach. And Ali, you have a little bit something different to add?
I think marketing has been, one of my favorite things, having absolutely no budget to now having a really nice budget. Definitely like Tim, we became a bit of a gifting company there for a bit. Really utilize our community to, to repost stuff. I think in the early days, what we really did is that all we had at that time was a lot of stores that stocked us. So I tried to leverage them as much as I possibly could. And I did that through shelf space, Instagram posts, store windows, gondola ends. And I'd give away whatever it took to get more space, more awareness. So if somebody went into a store, they see a whole gondola end, they're like, this, people take photos and share it. And, it gave us a lot of traction. So, in Cronulla Mall, this store, one of the health food shops down there, he's got this huge window. So I said, I'll give you like a whole bunch of free stock if you can give me the window. And, we did that store by store. And we got a lot of presents. And I think when another store saw the presents, they obviously, said it obviously must sell. Today, our marketing's a little bit different. I don't go to store begging for space, but I'm trying to do things differently and try not to play so much in that online space, because that online space is, there's a lot of people playing in that. So with our Woolworths ranging, we did a lot of magazines. We actually are doing some TV screens, which was really exciting to do. So about 50 shopping centres, we've taken off their TV screens for a whole 2 weeks, and all the gyms. Fitness, well, we did have one planned for Fitness First, but we're going to push that back to next year now. So doing sampling in the gyms. So you have little buckets in the gyms, and on all of the screens in Fitness First. So for about 3 weeks. So in the space of Woolworths. So just trying to do things differently to everybody else.
And that Fitness First approach just comes back down to what you were saying earlier on about being very targeted with your consumers, right?
I think it's very easy to market when you have a very targeted audience, rather than just being having a very wide audience. It's very, very easy for us, especially when you do Facebook and Google ads.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We might just got one more little topic, and then I think, Arihan, there's a few questions here. correct me if I'm wrong, in the chat box there.
Yeah, there are a few questions from the audience which you might want to take up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just do one more topic and then we'll get into that, and then we're pretty close to wrapping up. So, guys, I'd love to understand. Obviously, we don't need the micro detail of this, but obviously, you know, one of the pain points for most startups is, you know, the funding of your business. So, I'd love to get just a quick sort of 30 seconds each on, you know, how you manage that, whether it is through your own savings or family and friends, or you've raised capital, or might kick off with you, Steve.
Yeah, sure. I think in some ways my fundraising started well before Shine, with my relationship with Sam and working so close with him and proving trust and capability and ultimately confidence in my ability to execute. So when we started Shine together, he was more than comfortable to invest in what we're doing together. So that was where we got our seed funding from Sam, and that got to a certain point where ultimately we used our own money to prove our own assumption, which is people wanted this, and we got to a point of product market fit with that first product, and we'd spent enough to go, this is a thing that could scale to much larger than what it is currently. So at that point, we went and raised some capital where there was still a bit more of a risk. We went into carbonated drinks, we went into cans, we had some national grocery still to come. So it was still a lot of risk on the table. So then when there's a lot of risk, you want to more go towards the equity route and sell, you know, some part of your business for money that can be invested towards more growth initiatives and risky things, whilst you're still losing money each year. And then, you know, as we...
Is that Steve frozen? Okay, we'll wait for Steve to come back. Ali, do you want to give us a quick update on how you funded in the early days?
Yeah, very, very quick answer. Self-funded the whole way through. And so I'm not sure I've ever solved the funding issue, but no, self-funded the whole way through.
Awesome. And Tim?
Same story. Self-funded. We're just doing our first sort of raises now. I've yet to make $1 from the business, if that's, you know, being pretty transparent. I always am. I'm yet to make one single Australian dollar from this company yet. Been working on it for about 4 years. So we'll finally do our first round. But, you know, at the same time, the advantage of that is I own just a bit under half of the company. So whilst it's been a grind, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we'll do our first seed round come December, January after a huge summer. We'll do our first raise and then tackle it from there.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. There's a couple of questions here. We may have touched on one or two of them during the little journey here, but there's one here. I might go to you, Ali. How important is the community building to educate consumers about your brand?
Absolutely. Starting as a very small company with very little marketing budget, the community is everything. Without a community, we wouldn't be where we are today. We started our business on Instagram, literally, and we still have the same people that purchase stuff from us still following us. And we were completely different branded when we started, and someone sent me a photo of it that they found in their phone. So community is everything.
Yeah. And Tim, one for you. I think you may have answered this, but there's a question here around, you know, e-commerce online versus, you know, bricks and mortar. How have you played that game over your little journey?
I'll try to be as quick as possible. But, you know, whilst we were loving online, we were loving the margins, it was all very exciting and it was very hands-off. It didn't give our business a huge evaluation. And then when you start talking about distribution, and this is conversations I'm having with people that are trying to shift from online to retail, you can talk about how many units you're moving per week in store, the margins, so we're in about just under 2,000 stores now, and that's the topic of conversation with investors and the VCs, and there's not as much focus on how many units you're doing online. So there still is, of course, but the question is how many stores, what's your UPS, units per stores, what marketing activity you're doing to push people to stores. So that's the bulk of the conversation we have. So I think it's pretty obvious that that's pretty important.
Yeah, no, that's great. Have we got Steve back?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that. My internet dropped.
Cool. That's all right, mate, no problem. All right, well, it's a couple of quick fire round questions with, a word or short sentence answer just to wrap up. I'll kick off with you, Ali. one tip, if you were giving one tip to, a startup or an SME at the beginning of their journey, what would that be?
Get your design and your marketing right. Design is your marketing. So design and marketing.
Beautiful. Steve?
Talk to 20 successful people who've done it before.
That's a great one. And Tim?
For me, risks. If I didn't take any risks, I reckon I'd be in 26 stores right now, I reckon.
Yeah, love it. And okay, second one is, can you give us one lesson you've learned where you've in the early days you did something you're like, oh my God, did we really do that? What would that be? Go back to you, Tim.
We forgot to do the 10-cent refunding thing on the back of our packaging. So, so making sure you're doing the compliance on your packaging, that was a very expensive exercise. Someone re-stickering 22,000 units at the time. Get the barcode and the stickers and the compliance right.
You wouldn't be alone there. Ali?
Actually, something very similar. I didn't replace the barcodes on a single serve coffee. So very, very similar, yeah. So I had to sticker the barcode on 10,000 units.
That's funny. And Steve, tell me you've got a big lesson learned.
Yeah, plenty. I've definitely got so many little spelling mistakes on labels, over the years. But the big one would probably be don't count the range review or don't count the order until you've got it in your warehouse or they've even paid for it. We got pretty firm commitments from buyers, for large national ranging quite early on, and we manufactured all the stock possible for it, and only be told 2 weeks before launch that they pushed it back or to no, and they didn't actually give us the commitment. So that cost us a lot of money and put us in a lot of stressful situations. So don't trust buyers until it's in writing and orders are placed and stocks land in their warehouse, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. And the last one, let's do a one-word answer to describe your startup journey. Tim?
Crazy.
Ali?
Not over.
Not over. Steve?
Energizing.
Yeah, energizing. Love it. What a diverse bunch of answers. I really appreciate your time, Steve, Tim, and Ali, and really appreciate you hosting Arihant and from Sattviko in India there. And anyone who would like to have a look at this little chat, obviously it's recorded, and we'll get it on LinkedIn over the next few days. And thank you all very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, team.
Thanks David.
Guys.
Thank you, guys. It was a great session. Thanks.
Good to see you, Tim. Good to meet you, Ali.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks very much.